Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Newark City Council Finance Committee to order. Members present are Mr. Lang, Mr. Harris, Mr. Bub, Mr. Labutis is sitting in for Mr. Marmy and myself. We have a few items on the agenda tonight, and the first item is to discuss resolution number 2011, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. And section 1 is dealing with an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of $218,309. And Director Rhodes is at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is exactly what it is. That comes out of the additional revenues collected at the end of 2019, and the capital improvements budget gets a percentage of that, and this is the additional percentage that goes into that. So this is just nothing more than an operating transfer.
Okay. Thank you, Director Rhodes.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bub.
Second.
Second, Mr. Harris. Any questions or comments from the committee? Questions or comments from the audience? All in favor, move this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. The next section of that resolution is appropriation of the unappropriated balance for $16,740 for maintenance buildings and grounds.
Yeah.
And Director Rhodes is at the podium.
Yes, this is an insurance check that we received. We had some damage out of Don Edwards Field. We had a windstorm come through, blew part of the fence down, blew the roof off the press box, blew the roof. When I say the roof, I'm talking shingles. Took some shingle damage to the referee's room, which was right behind the press box attached to the concession stand, and the fence.
Wow. When did all that happen?
A couple months back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Rhodes.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bub.
Second.
Second, Mr. Labutis. Any questions or comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All in favor, move that on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, that concludes resolution 2011. So our next resolution to consider is resolution number 2012, a resolution appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. And section 1 is an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 153 Comp Abs Fund in the amount of $4,500.
Yes, this is a firefighter payout. He resigned. It is a contractual obligation that we have.
Thank you, Director Rhodes. Motion, Mr. Bub.
Second.
Second, Mr. Lang. Any questions, comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All in favor, move this on to full council, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Section 2 of this resolution is hereby an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 153 Comp Abs Fund in the amount of $2,100.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Bub.
Second.
How about Mr. Harris? Second, Mr. Harris. Any questions or comments from the committee? Questions, comments from the audience? All in favor, move this on to full council, signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Rhodes. And section 3 of this resolution is hereby an appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 621 Water Fund in the amount of $98,000. Sewer expansion master plan, and Superintendent Lewis is at the podium.
Yeah, this is just some money to do an initial, what we're calling a mini master plan for our water system and where we can expand our water system to for some outlying areas of the city that we need to possibly expand to. We're just going to do some initial studies to see where we need to go. So that's what this is for, is out of the water funds. So.
Thank you, Mr. Loomis. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Lang.
Second.
Second, Mr. Labutis. So is it, Mr. Loomis, is this work that you've already planned to do this year, or?
This is a engineering work we're doing, and so this is just doing some studies, doing some modeling of our water system, where where we have deficiencies, of looking where we could expand water to if we could or needed to, and what we would need to do to expand into certain areas of the city that what would have to happen if we had to extend water towards the east, towards the west, towards the north, that kind of thing.
I see. So this after this plan's done, then you'll see what options are available or
Right,
what needs are available.
and what those costs may be to do those things,
I
if it's,
see.
whatever. So it's just kind of a planning document we're working on, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Questions or comments from the audience? All in favor of moving this on to full council, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. And that concludes the business of Finance Committee. Up next is service.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Harris, Barker, Blake, and Bub. Up first, we'll consider resolution number 20-15, a resolution authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service to execute a cooperative construction agreement with the City of Heath, Ohio for the paving of Blue Jay Road. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is really an ODOT project, and they're coordinating with the City of Heath and Newark so we can get Blue Jay Road paved, and the city's share is $20,000.
Part of Blue Jay is in Newark?
Yep, Blue Jay and Irving Wick Road. Yes, we're just paying for the section that is in Newark. Yes, that is correct.
Any questions from the committee?
I'll offer motion. Second.
Motion by Bub, seconded by Barker. Any questions from the audience? Seeing no questions, all those in favor of passing this on to council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. That passes with a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Service Committee is adjourned. Up next will be capital improvements.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Capital Improvements Committee to order. Those present are myself, Labutus, Rath, Fennell, and Blake in for D. Hall, who's still recuperating. We've got Resolution 20-13. First section is appropriation in the amount of $50,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund. I see Mr. Rhodes at the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The one thing we do is we continue to analyze the equipment in the fire department along with the fire chief and his staff, and they determined that they would like to have another fire truck in service, and they reached out and kind of found a 2001 Pierce truck. It has 2,000 operating hours on it and only 25,000 miles. And the chief went out, looked at it with his staff, and he said, Dave, I think we've got a winner here for the dollars we're going to spend. So we all agreed, and so we'd like to ask for $50,000 from the capital improvement budget to make that purchase.
Make a motion.
Second. Motion by Rath, second by Labutus. So, any plans for where this will be stationed?
Again, I like to defer to the chief on those things, but if I'm guessing, it'll land at the Hollander Station, and that's just a guess, okay? But the chief can give you a further plan.
Any questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? Okay, with that, all those in favor of sending this on to full council signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same side. That carries 5-0. Moving on to full council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, next up we have Resolution 20-14. As an appropriation in the amount of $9,900 from the Capital Improvements Fund for recreational supplies. Director Rhodes?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This will, what the intent here is for disc pads, concrete pads for our disc golf course at Everett Park. We do have a grant that's going to come in. We need to have a 25% local match, but we need to put all the money up forward. All the money is $9,900. We're been awarded a grant of $7,425. Our share is going to be $2,475. But again, we need to front the money, do the work, and then we get the grant. And if you haven't been out to the disc golf course on Everett Park, it's a nice day, go out there. We've done an awful lot of work out there, and we are getting a lot of players out there, which is good energy for the park.
Make a motion.
Motion by Rath,
Second.
second by Fennell. Yeah, I'll have to say, I've got some old discs collecting dust in my garage. I need to get them out and try them out. It's been a long time.
Give me a call, I'll join you.
Any questions or discussion from the audience, or from the committee? Mr. Rath?
I do have a question. Do we have any other matching funds, grants coming up available where we might be able to a little bit of work and effort towards the next dog park?
Well, the next dog park is targeted on Flory Park, and there are grant funds that we're seeking out for that. And if you haven't seen our nice dog park down at Everett Park, you know, we have a large dog area as well as a small dog area. And when we laid out Flory Park, that's one of the components that we're looking at is that. So we constantly work with the Lincoln County Foundation, and Barbara constantly works on grants to help fund those. So that is a project that's being worked on.
All right. Any further questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? All right, all those in favor of sending this on to full council signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0, sending it on to full council. That'll conclude the Capital Improvements Committee, and up next will be Personnel.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call this Personnel Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Ryan Bubb, Sean Fennell, Jonathan Lang, Mark Labutus, and Jeremy Blake for D Hall. First item this evening is Ordinance 20-10. It's an ordinance amending the Senior Automotive Mechanic Equipment Operator of the Department of Public Service, Division of Street Maintenance and Traffic Control. Service Director David Rhodes is at the podium.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we had a retirement in the street department, and our senior automobile mechanic retired. At this time, when somebody leaves, what we do is we get together with HR and the department head, and we analyze the position and think of ways we can make it better. With this particular position, we thought that we should have an ASE certification go along with the position, and that was not included in the old job description. So that's kind of the real change, except from a little bit of escalation in wage too, to have that. To get that certification, it's about 2 years of work as well as continuing education. And these trucks are getting more complicated. And so we felt that was a good move to do so.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments from anyone from this committee?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Rhodes, for the ASE certification, should this person have that coming
Yes.
in? Okay.
Yeah, that's how the job will be posted.
Okay. All right, thank you.
One else? Mr. Lang.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes, what's the net impact, or how much are we raising salary?
Well, they're at a pay range 37 now, and we're going to start them at a pay range 40. And my math's going to be a little fuzzy on that, but if I look at Mr. Buskirk and say it's a couple $1,000s, he would.
They start out at the bottom,
Then
so it'll be about 40 to catch up.
okay.
Yep, there's 6 steps, and a long-term employee retiring is at the 6th step, so the new one starts usually at the 1 step. So you get the savings in that to offset probably the other thing. Fair? Yes, sir.
Thank you.
One else?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
A motion on the floor by Lang, second by Labutus. Further questions or comments?
John, I'd say is start out about $22 an hour, if that is a layman way of explaining that too.
Thank you.
I do want to commend you, Service Director, for analyzing these positions when they come open to improve efficiencies there in the city. With that being said, all those in favor of moving this on to full council can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item this evening is Ordinance 20-11. It's amending the position classification, pay range, and department authorization tables of the City of Newark Department of Service, Division of Parks and Cemetery by creating the classification of a grounds maintenance worker and setting the compensation therefore. Service Director Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually an addition. It's an additional position. All the other positions out at the Parks and Cemetery Department, they have to have CDL licenses. And the funny thing is, in the trucks these guys drive, you really don't need a CDL license to drive the size of trucks they do. And these aren't the guys we put behind snowplows and other things during the winter months. So we took a look at what we were spending in, say, summertime help and the expansion of the summertime help, and we believe by creating this new position, we can almost, and I use the key term almost, we will not completely fund it, but by taking some of those temporary dollars, we can create a new full-time position with benefits and bring another full-time member on to the Parks and Cemetery Department. You got to realize too, in the last 8 years, we've added property maintenance onto these guys. We're picking up trash, they're cutting grass, they're doing all kinds of other things too. So this will give us 4 full-time employees in the Parks and Cemetery Department that'll work with us year-round. And again, the funds will come out of summertime help.
Questions or comments?
Motion.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Lang, second by Labutus. Further questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor of moving this on to full council can signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you and best wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, we'll stand adjourned. City Council will start at 7 p.m.